Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I hope you are enjoying this new episode of Test Flex 2024. I believe there have been some really great presentations and conversations till now, and you have been learning on your journey with Test Flex. My topic today is about how to showcase the impact quality engineering makes through a value conversation. My fundamental belief is value is earned by making impact where it matters. The business users would listen to you if you are able to showcase to them what value creation activity has been done by quality engineering as a function. Let's show the value of testing using business KPIs. I believe majority of you who are in leadership roles in testing or who are aspiring to be in leadership roles in testing would be conversant with this dashboard. A lot of testing teams use these dashboards to showcase the regular progress report achieved in testing or over a week, over a period of time, by including typical metrics around test case execution productivity, that is, number of test cases executed, test case design productivity, that is, number of test cases documented or defined, multiple different matrices around defects by severity, by priority, how many defects were lead to subsequent stages, and so forth. I think teams also represent dashboards in terms of the coverage, in terms of the overall cost of testing. If you're using a global team, the matrices are also shown around the leverage ratio between onshore and offshore teams, as well as around budget, whether we have been on track with our spend in testing or not. We also measure time to market or efficiency. But do these matrices really make sense to the business beyond engineering? That is quite questionable because most of the time business is only concerned about three elements. How are these KPIs or matrices impacting my CSAT or the NPS score? How are these matrices allowing me to increase my revenue or the top line? How are these matrices allowing me to reduce my operational expenses or bringing in more efficiency in how we operate today as a business? This is essentially where the disconnect happens between the technology matrices and the business matrices, and how you can correlate these two together so that the business users or the people who actually hold the purse, the budget for you, can understand why they should spend more or why they should continue to support spending in whatever you're doing today, and how it really, really helps them to go out in the market and win more business or operate more efficiently. Let me ask you a question. Are you struggling to secure funding for your testing function? Have you been asked why you need such a large testing team? Or are there questions asked whenever you go out and ask for a budget for a new automation tool or for a new platform for execution? Are you getting those questions? If the answer is yes, then let's dive into the ROI framework, which has helped me always working with multiple large customers for the last decade or so, helping to explain to the business users why the investment they would make in testing today would give them better benefits in the upcoming future, and how testing alone can save the cost of multiple other functions which are not directly related to engineering, but engineering has an impact, or how this can help them increase their revenue on the net promoter score. So let's dive into my ROI framework. The first question which every engineering leader who is responsible for quality engineering is supposed to answer or set up at the end of every financial year in a company is, what is my budget for next year? How much funding do I need to continue to operate what I'm operating today, or to, to continue to support the expanding need of business in the upcoming year? Everyone draws a budget in terms of, okay, this is the annual dollar amount I would need to continue to operate and support the business operations the way I'm doing today, or do better than what I'm doing today. The first thing which you need to communicate to the business is What do they get by providing you that budget which you're asking for? I think the first fundamental question that to be answered here is how you can help them increase the focus on the end customer. That is how you can help them improve the customer satisfaction scores. How the second question is whatever we are spending today on quality engineering, how it helps to improve the operational excellence. That is how it helps to reduce the cost per transaction, but at the same time increase the revenue per transaction, help improve the CSAT or the NPS scores, broadly how it drives the efficiencies in the organization and help business achieve their key OKRs and meet their targets. Third question which you need to answer when you're asking for budget is how the problem solving skills of the quality engineering team can help identify to increase the coverage of test automation by identifying the right use cases for test automation instead of trying to automate everything and anything under the garb of regression testing. The traditional way of figuring out or automating regression test suits blindly does not really work in the larger scheme of things. The second is how you can optimize the testing framework. Now, when I say about testing framework, I'm not talking about only test automation. I'm talking about the entire framework around testing. That is how you can identify what are the right use cases to test, how you can reduce the number of test cases you're documenting or which you have already documented, how you can reduce the fluff from the real scenarios to be tested. The third is how do you really go about optimizing tools. Today, if you look at any quality engineering team, we use a ton of tools, right? From documentation of test cases, we use test case management tools, we use tools for test automation, licensed or open source. A lot of the teams depend on licensed tools. We use multiple different tools across the different technology stack. We use a separate tool for contract testing. We will use a separate tool for API integration testing, for front-end web or front-end mobile or database testing. At the same time, we use multiple different test execution platforms on the cloud, be it BrowserStack, SaaSLab, or any other cloud execution platform. At the same time, a lot of teams are also using dashboarding solutions or tools. How you can optimize across all of these tools to bring real value? These are the questions which you need to answer or bring up in your conversations with the business stakeholders of how you're going to achieve on all these objectives and continue to focus more on the end customer. You can correlate them with a technical matrices to improve. First, let's talk about testing performance. The business users don't care about how many test cases you're documenting or executing or automating. What they care about is how you're able to reduce the time to market. That is how you're reducing the build validation time. That is, if you're taking 48 hours today to validate a new regression build, can you do it in 4 hours? If yes, then how? What are you going to do about test data management? That is how realistic your data can be to the actual data used by the end customer in production, because that is what will trigger the real business flow and the real business rules to validate it. From an automation standpoint, they don't care about the last end result because the most important metrics in automation track is the first pass percentage because that communicates the stability of your test automation suite. I've seen teams who, at the end of the sprint, showcase 100% test automation execution with 95% pass rate. But what they don't communicate is how many times they had to re-execute that test automation suite to reach 95%. And the reason for re-execution, was it because of application bugs or issues, or was it because automation test suite was not stable enough? If you're catching out your application bugs through your automation suite, business is happy. But if you're forced to re-execute multiple different times because your automation suite is not stable, that does not make sense to business. So that is a cost they're spending again and again in every sprint. And that is what they want to reduce. The coverage. The coverage here is not only in terms of the functional coverage of the scenarios. Coverage here is also in terms of how many geographies are you covering in the same test automation suite or in testing. How many different combination of browser and OS or device and OS are you covering? How many different multilingual combinations are you covering if you are a global enterprise? And how many different currencies are you covering? Because that gives them the confidence of having a coverage across broad spectrum of users so that they can confidently go out and say that our application supports all these languages, all these browsers, devices, and OS combinations, and they work seamlessly. Because that is how they can then plan their marketing and the customer outreach strategy to figure out which customers reach out to and how to propagate the business. The second thing which you can relate is how, with all the improvements you have done on the testing side from a technology perspective, how it has helped to save the overall cost of testing. Not only the cost of testing which the testers are spending on, but the overall cost of testing. Because if you collaborate with the development team early on, then you can also help them augment their unit testing coverage, which will reduce the overall cost of testing. You can also help them augment in the API on the contractors layer, which will help them again reduce the overall cost of testing. You can work with the cloud ops team and the SRE or the cloud monitoring team or production monitoring team to identify the user journeys and test scenarios from production, which will help you focus on the right use cases to test, which will again reduce the overall cost of testing. From an automation standpoint, is a very important topic in every business conversation because over the years, automation is sold as one magic bullet which can solve all your problems. It can, but if done right, it can become a pain if not done right. So, what do you need to focus on? What is my automation coverage? Not in terms of the functional test cases, but in terms of user journeys. How many critical user journeys you are covering from an automation standpoint? What is the scalability and reliability for automation? That is, how quickly you can use automation to test any new environment coming up and certify the incoming build. At the same time, how quickly you can execute the overall regression test suite within the pipeline. For that, you need to restructure your automation thought process to focus more on building automation at the API, microservices, database layer to run it more closer to the code and run more number of scenarios in much shorter span of time. One thing which nobody really calls out at present is what is your automation maintenance effort? That is, out of the total engineering effort for testing in every sprint, what percentage actually goes in maintaining the existing test automation suite? If you're spending 80% of your effort, budgeted effort, in only maintenance, then you're actually not moving the needle. You're not taking the automation forward. You're just ensuring that you are able to run what exists today, which basically means that you are increasing over a period of time your technical debt to a number where your current automation becomes irrelevant because it's not able to catch up to the new business functions. Finally, is what is your automation productivity? That is, how many new scenarios you are able to automate in every sprint that you can only achieve a higher number if your automation maintenance effort is lower. All of these technical matrices can actually be correlated back to align with the key business outcomes which the business is looking for. That is, take an example of an e-commerce company. How are you able to improve my cart conversion pattern? That is, the number of users who are coming on my mobile app or my web app. How many of them are able to successfully complete transaction end to end and make an actual purchase? What is my net promoter score? That is, how people are rating my mobile app or their digital experience with the brand online. How you're able to reduce my cost per transaction. That is, I'm not required to spend a lot of time on customer support for every business transaction or every e-commerce transaction done on the platform. I have less and less number of users coming back to customer support with their queries or questions. How you can increase the revenue per transaction. All of these key business matrices directly relate or impact the increased revenue or reduced cost, thereby increasing the profitability of the business. One key area for you to achieve all of these matrices and to understand the business needs is different departments or the different business functions in your organization. Let's first start on the sales and the customer success team. These departments can tell you what really customer cares for and what will make the end customer successful. The marketing growth engine can essentially help you understand what is the brand positioning in the market and how the brand is looking to differentiate itself from others. The business operations team can help you understand what are the key KPIs or KRAs which actually make an impact on the business top line or the bottom line. The customer support team is a good ally for a quality engine team because they are the ones who face the customers day in, day out. They are the ones who know where the customer is truly struggling and what the customer really wants to happen to work. Finally, your CXOs, the business unit heads, they get uh, tell you about their OKR and what they count as success. As the engineering team, the definition of success for us can be delivering a build to production on time, delivering a build to production with least number of defects, delivering a build to production with a great engineering marvel. But for a business unit head, all of these are relevant, but they don't define success. For him, the success can be, have I increased my revenue per transaction? Have I reduced my cost per transaction? Have I increased my market share in the coming quarter? Or am I being able to launch 3 new markets in the coming quarter? Those are the OKRs which the business is tracking. Those are the OKRs on which they determine whether the quarter was successful or whether the year was successful then or not. Thanks for listening to me. You can catch me on LinkedIn and keep continuing to interact with me. Thank you. Bye-bye.